Hello, hello.
Hello, Michael. You are always the first one here, which is so gratifying to me.
How
And
are you?
let's see, I got to turn up the volume here for sure. Here we go. All right. Now I can hear you better.
Great. How's your weekend?
Let's see. I'm still getting this squared away here. It was good. It was very good. What did I do this weekend? I mostly worked, I think.
Nice.
I can't even remember. It was just kind of a quiet weekend. I did tell everybody I was available if they needed anything real estate, showings or whatever. And everybody was like, no, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. So now, of course, that now that everybody's sort of back to the real world, that's when we're going to get all these calls, right? How was
Right.
your weekend?
It was good. It was a little quiet as well. I I got a call that the listing agent that my clients are buying the home from, her sister passed. So she's been
Oh,
kind of a wreck. So I've been trying
oh,
to tiptoe around her. Um,
yeah. Does she have backup to cover for her so you can get your questions answered and things
uh,
taken care of? Not
Not
really.
really, but I mean, since we're basically done with the closing, all we have to do is wait for the appraisal to come back, and um and then that's really it. I mean, our closing was
Yeah.
supposed to be for Friday, but the loan mortgage officer is having some issues with getting the association VA approved. So um
Oh
we
dear.
should know more by like next week. Hopefully we're close.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Oh
fine.
my goodness. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, I apologize. Tuesday kind of snuck up on me because I like to get out reminders to you guys, in the morning,
Yeah.
So did you see my text?
No,
I
I
gave
didn't get a
people,
text.
oh, I gave people a 10-minute warning. And Lisa doesn't, she doesn't have, she hasn't opted into my texts. So you probably didn't get my text saying 10 minutes.
Oh, no, I
Yeah,
didn't.
I didn't get anything. I just got your email the other day,
Yeah.
yesterday.
Okay. Well, that worked. Yeah, I was this morning. It was like, okay, it's Tuesday. And, I started in prospecting and everything, didn't look at my calendar, didn't look at my calendar until lunchtime. And then it was like, oh, yes, today's the new day for our mentor Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
So, how was your weekend, Lisa?
It was great. Yeah, we went to the Victoria and went to the garden and what else did we do? We rented scooters and scooted all around the neighborhood there.
Oh,
That was fun.
yeah. Well, that was you and your daughter.
Yeah, my daughter and my husband was there too. Oh, we had tea at the Fairmont. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you did it upright. You did the whole thing. You did the Bouchard Gardens, you did the Empress Hotel.
Yeah, and we went to there was a castle out there near the
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
university. We went and looked at
Yeah.
that, but you couldn't go in and someone was having a wedding on the other side of it. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, it was her birthday. My other daughter was her birthday too. They're twins, but she was in Germany at the time. So
Oh, my
um, yeah,
goodness. Wow. I didn't realize you had two daughters, but I guess if they're twins, are they identical twins?
no, they're not identical. I have daughters actually, and I have another that lives in San Francisco.
Wow. Well, they're beautiful girls, the ones I've seen on Facebook.
Oh, thank you.
They look a
Yeah,
lot like you, Lisa.
I
they
know everyone
do.
says that, but differently, right?
Well, it depends on whether or not they like to hear it. You probably like to hear it, but we definitely see the family resemblance.
Yeah.
Wendy, I just got your 10-minute text.
You
Oh,
just got
yeah,
it?
I was
Yeah,
just
I
gonna
just
see if
got
I
it
had
just
a text.
now.
Oh, okay. And of course, Giselle is checking her text. She's good about that.
Yeah, I don't think I got a text.
That's because you haven't opted into text
Oh.
yet, Lisa. I can never text you.
Oh, where do I do that?
I don't know how you do that. Maybe if you send me a text.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know. KV Core says you're not opted in, but I might try to force that issue. Hello, Giselle. What part of the world are you in right now, Giselle?
I know. Right now, I'm in my house.
Are you? You're back after your luxury pet sitting experience?
Yes. The $2 million home is beautiful. Beautiful
Yeah.
in there. Yeah. And I thought our call was canceled because of the holiday. So the only reason I knew was today is because I saw the text message.
Thank goodness.
I was about
Yeah.
to give you a call. Yes,
Yes.
I'm so glad. So it's changing, Wendy, to Tuesdays?
We were going to change it to Tuesdays because I have a few new mentees, and one of them could only make it on certain days off. So I've got some new mentees that are working part-time, and we'll see if we can find a date that, works for the majority of people. Given that it's a holiday, I won't consider this a fair test. I'll send out another reminder to people. But I know that Nikki said she was on vacation still and she wants a recording. So we'll send the recording, but we'll see if some others show up. So Giselle, in case you guys hadn't followed her on Facebook, has another innovative approach to housing, which I totally applaud. You want to share what you're doing?
Yeah, so this is crazy. It all happened very fast. So my boyfriend and I are going to be full-time house pet sitters starting December 1st. So we're gonna leave our lease. We're gonna not renew, and we're gonna be doing this full-time. So I started a couple weekends ago on my own. And this weekend for the week, we were in Bend, Oregon, together as a couple, doing our first house sit as a couple in a $2 million home overlooking the Cascades. Beautiful. I told my boyfriend, that was your first experience. He got spoiled now. Because now he's like, I like this. This is fun. Yes,
It
and
could
we're
be
gonna do it in
fun.
Washington State. So if you're wondering like how we're gonna make it work, we're gonna stay in the States. So it can be done. I know people that are doing it in California full time. It's just a matter of booking yourself. And I'm also opening it up to like you guys, like friends and family, like we want to book and we're not charging. So that's the thing. We don't charge. This is free. And it's an exchange, right? We take care of your house, we take care of your pets, and then we get a roof over our heads and we get to explore and experience. We have a lot of time. We don't have kids, and I told them we can't keep living in we live in Kirkland suburbs, like we're married with little kids. I'm like, I can't live like that. I need more adventure right now in my life.
Yeah, so I hope that works out for you. I'm totally in support of all these alternative housing arrangements that frees you up from monthly obligation and gives you the
Yeah,
opportunity to take a little more risks with your business.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll be saving probably, I mean, like 5 grand a month at least, just on living expenses, roof over our heads, having to, bills, all that stuff. So it'll be nice.
Excellent. Well, let me
Save money.
welcome Caduce, Cora. Caduce is one of my new mentees. Caduce, I don't know if you're there. We go. Here he is. Here's his handsome
How you guys
face.
doing?
Caduce has another job that he works, right? Real estate is part-time.
What at least for the moment.
Yes. Caduce sounds like a real go-getter. So the plan is eventually to be full-time in real estate. And since he's, really excited about getting started in real estate, he's one of the reasons we moved to Tuesdays. Hopefully that will work for Caduce and work for everybody else as well.
It
We'll
does,
see
and I
how it goes.
appreciate it for you guys changing it to Tuesday. It means a lot to me. I know it would.
Yeah. And you want to say a little bit about yourself and your background? You're brand new to real estate, right?
Yes, I am. Uh,
Anything?
I'm actually from Seattle. I've been here 2 years now. I was born in Florida, but I grew up in Ethiopia. I was there for about 18 years till I moved here. And since I've been here, I've worked at a couple of jobs here, and then that's when I started picking up on my interest in real estate. And then I got my license, and I'm here now. New journey.
Excellent. Well, it's good to have you, Caduce. I'm glad you could make it. Now, how many of you are actually right now working with buyers? Michael? None yet, Lisa?
No.
Okay, so those WhatsApp people, you can't trust them.
No, I know. I'm like, I started getting, I'm like, I put my zip code in for realtor.com and I get messages at odd times, like 10 o'clock at night, early in the morning. And so I haven't had any real luck. I did call one, I got one call back from a guy, or actually he picked up the phone when I called him, and he was wanting to buy a $300,000 house and he had $100,000 cash, but the person selling the house wanted all cash only deal kind of a thing. So he didn't have enough money. He was buying it for his son, his son's friend. But yeah, not a
Was
lot
he
yet.
a legitimate buyer?
He was living in Oregon, the man that I called, and his son is living here in Linwood. And it's kind of, he was like, didn't realize how much things cost here now. He was like,
Okay, a
yeah,
little bit more than Oregon, depending on where he is. And
right.
Giselle, I know you've worked with a lot of buyers, still working with mostly investors, right?
Yes, yes. And I'm getting ready. I was about to call you, Wendy, when I got your text about this, because I have to chat with you on my first listing. I had never done one, and the house
Okay.
they're renovating they're going fast, way faster
Okay,
than I thought, and they're
okay.
like, no, we need to move along. And I'm like, okay, I need to
All
talk.
right, well, maybe after this Zoom call, we can either, when the Zoom's over, we can either stay on Zoom or just take it offline by phone or something. And Diego, also another one of my new mentees. Hello, Diego, welcome.
Hi, Wendy. How's it going?
It's going well. Do you have a camera? Would you dare to show your face to us?
Yeah, of course. I'm at the
There
gym right
he
now.
is. There's Diego. You guys, many of you have met Diego. Caduce is my newest mentee. He just introduced himself. Do you want to say a little bit about your background, Diego?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just let me get out of the gym.
Oh,
I
you're in
was
the
working
gym.
out.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Give me just 1 minute. I'm heading out.
All right. And Diego's just starting out as well, Caduce. I don't now, but you've got some people who have told you they're interested in buying a house. Yeah, so this is really important to get into working with buyers and what resources are there? How do you get started? What can you put together right away? What do you need to put together right away? Right? Okay, so most everybody has started working with buyers or have, prospective buyers that you will be working with. And in order to graduate from the mentor program, you have to have at least 3 transactions, one of which has to be a listing, which means they fully expect that more than likely your first few transactions will be with a buyer. Wow, that is a big gym Diego's in.
Yeah. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I'm Diego Cano. I'm originally from Venezuela, born and raised, and I just started as a real estate agent. I'm a full-time student and I work as a bartender at a bar. And what I'm doing right now, I'm focusing on building my business, a brand, getting to learn as much as possible from you, Wendy, and my and our team. And yeah, that's where I'm at now, and I'm honored to be part of your team. And yeah, thank you guys.
And I know I gave you a homework assignment that I forgot about last week. Did you do anything with AI? That's obviously you're at the gym, so you're not prepared to do that now.
Yeah. So actually I did some research, and there's one chat GPT class or module on our EXP dashboard. So it's what I was gonna show you guys is pretty much what's already in there, which is like, you know, how with AI, not only like you can not only create like text and stuff, you can brainstorm, you can you know, make it so it helps you to have some ideas for your business or create a script for you, kind of like um improve the script that we could already have and stuff. So it's a very handy tool that is not only useful for like the business, but honestly I use it on a daily basis. Like it's very helpful.
Well, maybe next week, if you can make this time next week, you can share that link and anything else you want to share with us about AI.
Of course, I will do so.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. Well, today let's spend a little bit of time talking about a buyer consultation. And I'm going to try to share my screen. Hopefully this will work. You guys will get a chance to see it. Where do I need to go? Screen one, I guess. And buyer consultation. All right. So I sent you all this link in my Google Drive. A couple of people, Nikki and Michael, were able to attend the workshop or not the workshop, the consultation I did for Marjorie Lamar. And this is actually what I sent her in advance of that meeting. So I do send the link, you know, I send her the email link, but I would say this, if you're meeting somebody for the first time, if it's, you know, really, it would be a lot better if you can schedule a meeting in person with them and either meet at a coffee shop, meet at a Regis office, which is really high end if you've got a high end client, or meet, you know, somewhere else that's nice, right? To meet in person and go over the materials, you know, in hard copy, which when we did meet with Marjorie, we had a hard copy of all of the materials. I sent her the link. I didn't assume that she would read through everything, but she did. So first of all, I have some general information about me. And this is where I would recommend that you create your own information about yourself. If you're in our co-founders group at EXP, we have a marketing person who will do things like this, you know, put together just a general marketing piece, including a little blurb about who am I? You know, what's my experience in real estate? For those of you that are, you know, brand new, you're not going to have 20 years of experience in real estate, but you're going to want to talk a little bit maybe about what your interests were in about getting involved in real estate, that you're working in, you know, you might want to promote your team, your sponsor, you might want to promote the company, EXP, and how great it's going to be for them to work with you. Character references or personal references are always a good thing, but this is just a general bio on me that was put together by our marketing person and co-founders. Some of you are really good at branding. This is something that I am not really too good at. I could be better. But some of the other things that I include in information about me is personal references. Now, for you guys, again, being brand new, maybe you don't have any real estate references, but here you could put references of people who know you, know your character, can speak to your work ethic, can maybe speak to maybe you went through a real estate course or training with someone. You could put me down as a personal real estate reference, as your EXP mentor. So it's kind of nice to have people that they can call to get familiar with you. I will say I provide this to everybody, my buyers and my sellers. And the clients almost never call these people, but don't count on that. You know, I'm putting these names here because I expect them to call. The other thing I include is my schedule, because I'm usually Monday through Friday in the office, role playing at 7:30 and working till 5 or maybe a little bit later, but not very late in the evenings and not on the weekends. So I can tell them, this is my schedule. I'm going to work really hard to find the perfect home for you within this schedule. But if you do want to see something in the evenings, you want to see it on the weekends, I have showing agents. All of you guys are my showing agents, whether you knew it or not. If you're available, I'm going to ask you if you'd be willing to show a house or sit for an inspection or anything that I can't physically do. So Giselle, did I answer that question? Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So for those of you that work, have another job, you might want to make it clear that your real estate hours, maybe you put in a schedule of your real estate hours, like I'm available Monday through Friday after 6 p.m. and I'm available all weekend, or whatever that is. You might want to cover this verbally. So that's just general information about me. What you're trying to do with any information you provide about yourself is really to distinguish yourself from everyone else. You're obviously you're new in real estate, so you don't have to pretend that you're not new. But you might want to stress things like you're a go-getter, you work really, really hard. Maybe you've achieved in other areas and you're going to bring that same work ethic to real estate. There's no one that will work harder than I will to get you the perfect home or something. Whatever you want to say about yourself, value, maybe your statement of values, whatever. It doesn't have to be these things. It can be anything that you think will establish your credibility in real estate. Now, most of you will be probably working with buyers who are people you know. They will be part of your sphere. But I would start, maybe you put in a professional resume. I just got a resume from a tenant who's applied for a room to rent where I live. And what she did was she gave me personal references because she's only 22 years old. She doesn't have a rental history. She doesn't have an employment history that meet my criteria. So in lieu of that, she gave me this very nice typed up it looks like a resume, but it's a list of personal references where she gives me names, numbers, and she tells me what her relationship was to each of these people and why I might want to call them. So I was pretty impressed with that. All right, any questions about your personal information about you personally that you might want to share? And this, I'm just focused on the written materials now that you might want to present to a buyer. Oh, there's Giselle. Okay, Giselle.
Quick question. Will you include a testimonial Well, I guess if you already worked with the buyer, would you include a testimonial?
You know, that's great. I used to have a testimonial sheet. I took it out because I'm so bad about asking for testimonials and keeping it current. But I have some great ones. So yes, if you have testimonials, that would be a really good thing to include. Or maybe if you don't have a lot of testimonials, you add it to one of the other information pieces you've developed, like on your bio. Then you can have one or two testimonials at the very bottom of that. And maybe that's the only thing you pass out about you. Doesn't have to be a lot of pages. It's just some information to build your credibility.
Thank
Then
you.
this next, did that answer your question or any other questions?
That's good, thank you.
Okay, then the next section I have, this is where you can see I'm just not very good about branding. Oh, and it gets better, but so this is just general home buying information. And this is great to collect any material that you can get from anywhere and anyone about the home buying process. And make it available. Marjorie had already, she's a homeowner. She's been through the buying process before. But for a lot of you, the buyers you may be meeting with have never bought a home. They don't know what the process is. And maybe you don't know what the process is yet. You haven't gone through it all the way. But you want to provide some information that's going to be really helpful for people who are buying a home. So this, I think I got this from not KV Core, but I think it was from Keeping Current Matters, which is a place that I subscribe to. And it's 23 pages long with a lot of information about the home buying process, like why you might want to buy a home, how you begin the home buying process. And I hope it talks about a mortgage lender in here somewhere, how you build your credit to buy a home. It's just got all kinds of information. People are concerned, oh, I've got a lot of student debt. Well, that doesn't mean you can't qualify. So this addresses the student debt issue. It's a long student debt information. I need to have 20% down. No, you don't. I actually meet with a lot of buyers who think they do need to have 20% down. If you're a first-time home buyer, you may be able to come up with as little as 3.5% or less, and you can get loans, interest-free, really grants that you don't have to pay back if you're income qualified and you go through a down payment assistance class. Renting makes more sense, and it just goes on for 23 pages. It's a good guide. I really like it. And so this is just really valuable for someone who's never bought a home before. Now, one of the things that has changed recently with the National Association of Realtors, the NAR settlement, is every buyer needs to sign a buyer broker agency agreement. And in the past, that was kind of optional. A lot of buyers didn't sign buyer broker agreements, or they didn't sign it in advance. And so having a handout that explained, well, why do you need a real estate agent, was very handy. So this is something I found, which is that, and you guys, I sent you all these links. You can copy any of this information that is helpful for you and use it in your own packages. And you can go over this. When you're saying, well, gosh, what do I say to a buyer? Pick one of these handouts and say, let's go through the process. What questions do you have? And then maybe focus on the areas where they have questions, right? So this is one of them, right? Why do you need a real estate agent? And then it's always great to have some kind of a wish list or something that they can fill out. You can either go ahead and take their order while you're meeting with them there, or have them come to the meeting with this filled out. whatever kind of wish list they may have for the type of house that they're looking for. Normally, I won't set up a search for someone unless I know that they're either pre-qualified with a pre-approved by a lender, or they've started that process. But it's nice to give them the wish list because they can start thinking about what they would want in a home. So this is just a great place to put general information for a home buyer. And let's see, the last area I call paperwork. Now, Diego, you asked me about this process. I do not overwhelm my buyers with paperwork to start. And there's one change I would make to this. One, I give them the pamphlet that is required before they sign any documents, and that's Form P1. You can access it through the Northwest MLS Express Forms under pamphlets, and it's a pamphlet called Real Estate Brokerage in Washington. So I always provide that with buyers or sellers. The first time I meet with them, or when I'm sending them materials in advance, they have this required form. And I tell them it's a federally required form. Even if I'm meeting with someone who's got an expired listing, they're supposed to have had this pamphlet, but I don't know they have. So I'm going to give it to them because that way I know I provided the legal documents that they were required to have. Diego?
Oh yeah, I had a question. Is that considered the relationship, the like pamphlet that is required on like the first substantial meaning? Or is it a
No.
different one?
It's a federally required form that we give all clients that explains to them, it does explain the relationship. It explains what an agent can and cannot do, who they're representing. It explains dual agency. It goes through a lot of the legalese. I don't spend a lot of time on this. It's like 11 pages. And I just tell people, is it 11 pages? Maybe it's longer now. Oh, it's 4 pages. Well, that won't take too long. They shortened it. This is awesome that they shortened it. I don't spend a lot of time on this. I just tell them to take it home and read it. And they acknowledge that I gave it to them before they sign this next form, which is the buyer broker services agreement. So this is what the buyer signs. Diego, you had a listing, and the only paperwork I usually bring to a listing presentation is that pamphlet, the real estate brokerage in Washington, and the listing agreement. That's it. Now I probably will bring the seller disclosures, and I'll leave that with them, and I'll say, fill it out and get it back to me. But I only want them to sign one document when I'm meeting with them. Same thing with buyers. I don't want to overwhelm them. So this is the required buyer broker services agreement. And I think this is the latest one. Actually, it's been revised, hasn't it? I think it's been revised now. So I'm going to have to replace this because they revised, remember the Northwest MLS revised forms like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's in August this August.
Yeah, so you can see the date here, revised January 24. There will be a new revision, which would be 8/24. And that's what you want to give to your buyer for them to sign. And the other thing that I would probably put in this package, and which I did bring a hard copy to the meeting with Marjorie, would be a purchase and sale agreement, blank. Why? Because for a buyer who's entering into probably the largest financial commitment they think they're going to make in their entire life, it's a little intimidating to see I think that's 6 pages now. That's been revised too. So I don't know if it's more or less, but 6, 7, 8 pages of legalese, a legal contract. They're making an offer. They're making their very first offer. And I don't want the first time they see the purchase and sale agreement to be when they're making the offer. I want them to have it in advance. And if we have time in a buyer consultation, I'll go through it. Not in great detail, but enough for them to know, here are the significant terms that we will need to have in order to submit an offer. So I'll go through that. So a blank purchase and sale agreement is a good thing to have in the package for a buyer. So now these are the materials that I usually try to get in advance or at a meeting with a buyer before. Now, generally it's before you provide any brokerage services. That could include setting up a search. For me, the trigger, because I'll set up a search for people without going through this, but that's up to you. But the trigger for me is when they say, I want to see something. And then it's like, okay, then we need to meet first. We need to have a signed buyer agency agreement. I need to make sure you're pre-qualified or you have proof of funds. That's usually when I do it with a buyer. You guys, as soon as you get somebody who says, yeah, I think I might like to buy something, great. Let's just have an informational meeting. It's informational. You still want them to sign that Form 41A because it's good for 6 months or however long you decide to make it good for. But that way you're prepared, they're prepared, they can see if they feel comfortable with you. You can make it an exclusive or a non-exclusive relationship. Let's say you have a buyer that says, I only want to see this one property. I'm only interested in this one property. Great, we still need to meet first. We still need to have you sign this information, and we'll make it non-exclusive, meaning you can use other agents to look at other properties, but if you decide to buy this one, I'm the agent you're going to use. And we get that agreement before I'm showing you the property. Does that make sense? Okay, so those are the materials. Anyone have any materials that you've been using that you want to share, you want to talk about, any items that you provide? Or any questions about, should we include this? Should we include that? Okay, well, if there's no questions about the materials, let's move on to your actual meeting with them. Right? So preference is always to meet in person. It will be more effective. You will be more real. You will not be just another realtor. They're all the same anyway. If you meet with them in person, and especially if you go through all these things that I just shared with you. Now, I guess on the paperwork, I had the Wendy Ceccarelli things. I didn't have the eXp Realty things, but you could pull off lots of information. Again, we have a marketing person at Co-Founders who will put together a package of information on eXp. But, from any sources, including the website, you can pull off information about eXp. I would highly recommend that for you because eXp is such a great company. Mr. Buyer, did you know that this coming year, we are slated to become the largest real estate brokerage in the world? We've got 90,000 agents in 24 countries all around the world. So unlike most offices, like your local RE/MAX office or your local Sotheby's office that has 200 agents, we have 90,000. And we can promote your search. We can do your search using the resources of all 90,000 agents, right? EXP is a technology company. We don't spend a lot of money on advertising, right? We don't have to. We've got this really vast network. So there's a lot of great things about EXP that you definitely, as newer agents, you definitely want to put into your package of information. Okay, so we're going to meet with them. We're going to meet with them in person if possible. Sometimes, like Lisa, you'll get buyers that are coming from out of state. And obviously can't meet with them in advance in person, but I will schedule a Zoom meeting.
Mhm.
So I'm not the best on Zoom. You guys know that, but practice on Zoom, practice with each other on Zoom, maybe going through a role play, a buyer consultation on Zoom. So when you do get a call from somebody in Oregon, Zoom or Google Meet, or what are some of the other platforms, anything where they can see you, see your body language, see how you're dressed, your professionalism, what kind of, like, look at Lisa's background, it's so awesome. Any way you can showcase your personality would be great. Better than a phone call. But if a phone call is the best you can do the phone call, right? So we want to make it very personal. Usually, and the timing on this is, as soon as I get somebody who says, yes, I think I might like to buy something, I will ask, are you already working with a lender? And they will either say yes, no, or I'm planning to use cash. Now, if they say I'm planning to use cash, I may say, could you bring proof of cash funds, proof of funds to our meeting? Because I will need that when we make offers. And they may say, well, I'll get that to you when you need it. Fine. But I've let them know that just because they're a cash buyer doesn't mean they're not going to share paperwork with the seller. You can't say, I'm a cash buyer and not prove it. The seller won't accept an offer without proof. So my cash buyers, I usually asking for proof of funds, but I don't press that issue, if they're a cash buyer until we need to. Definitely, if they're going to need financing, then I want them to be in touch with a lender. If they've already got a lender, some of them will say, well, I'm not working with a lender yet, but I bank at BECU and I think I'll go with BECU. Great. Talk to your lenders at BECU. Would you like any other referrals? And I can give them the names. Ideally, you're going to give them the name of more than one mortgage lender. You should know more than one mortgage lender that you could refer them to. There's several in the industry who are really terrific. I've brought some of them to these meetings, and I do kind of pick and choose depending on the personality of my buyer. I'll match them with the personality or the special products of the lender. And then most all of you know Cheryl Taylor's my go-to lender I've been using for years. So I send a lot more business her way. But I do occasionally refer out to other mortgage lenders that I know are really good. So I'd like to get my buyer talking with a lender before I sit down with them. If you could do a three-way with your lender, do a three-way call. Are you working with a lender? Would you like a referral? Let me see if I can get my lender on the phone with you now. And then just do a little phone introduction 3 ways. Now that's really good if you've worked that out with your lender in advance. That is it okay if I call you? And then you get to listen in on the process the lender goes through to qualify somebody, at least over the phone, to sort of do pre-approval over the phone. So it's good information, good education. If you've never worked with a lender, you might offer to go with your buyer. If they're your buddy, go with your buyer to meet with the lender. or schedule a three-way phone call at a different time for all three of you, so you can learn as well. All right, so then we get to the meeting, wherever you hold the meeting. And it should be in a location where it's comfortable and quiet to talk. If the buyer says, yeah, let's meet at my home, you might want to check if there are pets or small children, because they have a tendency to preempt whatever conversation you've got, you're having. It might be better to let's meet at a neutral place where it'll be a little bit quieter, right? So the place does kind of matter. Buyers usually aren't meeting at their parents' house or their housemate's house, they'd probably be happy to meet at a coffee shop or a Regis office, or another similar spot you may have. Okay, any questions so far? This is sort of before you get there. Okay, so then you get to the meeting. Now, it's a good idea to have some sort of script that you're going to follow. Mike Ferry does have a buyer script. He's my coach, or I go through his organization, and it's free. It's not one of my favorite scripts. And it's not the way I work with buyers. So it's a script, and you can certainly look for scripts elsewhere. One of the easiest things to do is just follow like this general home buyer thing, or the pamphlet on real estate brokerage. Just use that as your outline to kind of walk through some things. And of course, it's all leading to to having them sign this buyer agency agreement. So you're going to want to see what are their questions. Then maybe they're sophisticated. Maybe you don't need to go through all of this. You only need to cover what they have questions about. So it always helps to ask. But let's talk about buyer consultation scripts. What do they look like? What do they sound like? Well, this is where Google is your friend, guys. It can be as formal or informal as you'd like it to be. But if you just Google buyer consultation real estate, you get all kinds of things coming up. And it's well worth going through. And I'm sure, Diego, that there's buyer consultation training in the EXP University as well. Let's see, on this was just a real quick before the meeting. I Googled buyer consultation real estate. Lost my little clicker here. Where is it? There's my cursor. The one I really like, and I've listened to it. It's 7 years old. This is Saria Finkelstein, and it's like 40 minutes. This is a 40-minute buyer consultation. Maybe 40 minutes is a little bit more than you want to spend on a consultation. It's actually, I think, if you minus the intro here, it probably is more like 30 minutes, which is really good. She is so thorough, and she covers just about anything and everything a buyer would need to know about the home buying process. I like this one a lot. And, she looks pretty goth, but she does such a great job. She's so professional that I don't know how anybody would say no to her at the end. They're going to sign the paperwork. Now, because this was 7 years ago, of course, she does have them sign, but she doesn't, she wasn't operating under the NAR settlement which here we've got a presentation, which I have not watched, that is specifically about what does NAR require. And this buyer consultation makes sure that you cover it. Now, what's interesting about this consultation is it's about establishing your value as a broker. And so if somebody is signing an agreement that they're going to pay you whatever your percentage is, then you're going to want to justify what you're doing for that money. And in our market, the typical commissions that we get as buyer agents are a pretty hefty sum of money. Most buyers, brand new first-time buyers, they don't know how you get paid. They might think you're on a salary with EXP. And in fact, Redfin agents are on a salary. So there are agents who are paid a salary. But if you're working strictly on commission, then they think you get 100% of that commission. They don't know that you have to split a certain amount with your brokerage. And because you're a new agent, you're also spending some of that on the mentor program. So you don't necessarily have to go through all of that, but just assume that a lot of buyers will not understand that. And you may even ask, do you know how, when they say, my gosh, that's a lot of money, then you can always say, do you know how a broker gets paid? And you know, I don't get paid until the transaction closes. And you know, out of that transaction, not only is the broker getting this, but that's my vacation pay. That's my sick pay. That's my days off and holidays pay. That's my retirement pay. Because as an independent contractor, you don't get those things, right? Buyers don't know this. They really don't. And you may, if you get pushback, you may want to be prepared to go into a little explanation about that. So there's actually quite a few. This guy does the best buyers presentation. It's over an hour. I haven't watched it. Here's some scripts. And you might, that was based on the lawsuit. So it'll be pretty current. You might want to look at the date. So if it's 2024, you know that it's going to deal with the NAR settlement and will be everything copacetic in terms of what you can and cannot say to buyers. So those are some really good resources. I don't know these first two. I'm not familiar with it. I really like her. Anybody have some buyer scripts or presentations that you really like, that you'd like to share with the group? Anybody using any buyer scripts yet? No? Okay, well, I just wanted to let you know there's a lot of resources out there. Hello, Lynette. I didn't know you joined us. Lynette is also one of our new mentees. Lynette, you want it now? Lynette is another person with another job. She has a very busy life, as a matter of fact. Lynette, you want to say just a little introduction about who you are? There we go.
My name is Lynette. I am a nurse practitioner and I treat patients with mental health issues. I just finished my real estate training, and in 2021 I did my licensing exam and passed, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. 12 not you. So I just want to do this for like an investment thing and part-time job. So it is really overwhelming for now, but I'm really hoping to, you know, understand everything that goes on in this field.
Yes. So for the newer people, especially Lynette, Caduce, Diego, was this helpful in terms of working with buyers and what's involved in at least initiating that that relationship.
Yes, it was pretty helpful. But I have one question though, if you don't mind me asking. So would we need to like get the buyer's agreement signed, like even if they're not like pre-qualified?
Yes, you can get it signed even though they're not pre-qualified. Just keep working with them to help them through that pre-qual process. There's paperwork involved. They've got to pull out bank statements, and it takes a little bit of W-2s. It takes a little bit of time to pull everything together. But meanwhile, it would be a bit premature. You could tell them it would be a bit premature to start showing them houses when we don't know what they can afford on a monthly basis. And we don't want to get their hopes up,
Yeah.
or show them houses that they're really not qualified for. Let's find out what the qualifications are, and then we can go from that there. Even if we're doing seller financing as
Mhm.
a financing option for people, I like them to talk to a lender. So we know that when they're ready to cash out the seller financing, they're qualified to do that.
I see.
And what they might need to do to get ready. You might find out that some of your buyers have bad credit. That doesn't mean that they can't buy a house. But we've got, most lenders have credit repair people that can help these buyers get ready to buy. Some may need to save a little bit more money. Some may have a lot of debt, right? So let's help those buyers get ready to buy, and they'll be thankful that you stayed in the picture to help them through that process for when they are ready. And if the buyer agency agreement expires, just have them sign a new one.
Okay. So it's better to have them get pre-approved before showing the property, right? So that they could
Yes,
see what
yes. The other argument, aside from the fact that we don't want to be showing you properties that you're not going to be able to buy. But aside from that, most sellers do not want agents bringing buyers by who haven't been pre-approved. Now, most of them don't prohibit it, but you will occasionally see in the listings pre-approved buyers only, or showings with proof of funds. So I just tell my buyers that sellers expect that if I'm bringing a buyer by, that I've got them through the pre-approval process. So they're expecting to see pre-approved buyers. And that way you don't waste your time, because you don't get paid with showing houses.
Yeah, that's
You don't
true.
get paid until they're capable of buying.
So Wendy, do you need a copy of their pre-approval letter from the bank to show to the sellers when you're maybe gonna?
No, but if they tell me they're pre-approved, I might say, who's the lender? Is this, if it's a lender that I referred to them, that lender will be in touch with me. That lender will be letting me know that they're in the process, or he's waiting on documents, or they're pre-approved for this amount. If it's a lender I don't know, I might say, oh, great. Do you mind if I get your lender's contact information? Just so I have it. And then I might call the lender and introduce myself and say, I understand that Caduce just got pre-approved for this loan, and he says he was pre-approved for 350,000. Is that right? I might just, want to verify that they've gone through the process.
That's not that paperwork. You don't need it for when you're.
I don't need it until they make an offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I tell them to keep it. And often a lender will do the pre-approval and it's only good for like 90 days.
Mm.
And things change. They want to see new bank statements, especially if somebody's kind of marginal.
Or if they
They might have to update the pre-approval once an offer is made, because things have changed.
Mhm.
And Lynette, you're nodding. You've been through this process. It looks like. Yes, okay. Yes.
is pre-approved once, then we did the final approval. He did not qualify for the same loan that he was approved previously, so that's a problem.
That is a problem, and it was a problem when the interest rates kept increasing. And then people who were approved at 3, 4, 5% were no longer approved for 6, 7%. Or the dollar amount was so low in our area, it just didn't make sense. So you don't want the process to drag out too long. Hopefully interest rates are going to start coming the other way, but they haven't yet. So, all right, any other questions about buyers? Because next week we'll do a little AI thing for Diego, remind me, Diego, and then we'll focus on sellers and listings. Any particular questions that people have that I should be addressing for sellers and listings? And Diego, you had a question. Did you have a question? No, you're okay on the AI. Any questions that you want me to address for next week in particular? Okay. And Giselle, you have a listing coming up that you and I need to stay on to discuss, right?
Yes.
All right. Would you like to do that one-on-one? Do you want to invite anybody else to listen in?
Let me think. They can listen in, but not like interrupt with questions, because I will probably have a lot of questions.
Okay. All right. So if anybody wants to learn a little bit more, Giselle's a real go-getter too. She works a lot with investors. She is constantly networking. She gets a lot of leads. They don't always turn into deals, but she's really persistent and good at follow up. And she's got a listing possibility. So Diego, did you want to ask something before we jump into Giselle?
Oh yeah. I just wanted to ask you if we could like talk a little bit about it on our next meeting about like inspections, like inspectors, like
Okay, so
like
what
do you
happens
have
after you get an
yeah,
offer accepted? Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about it. I don't know if it'll be the next meeting, unless you have something coming up right away. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about
Or
that.
whenever, yeah, no rush. Thank
Okay,
you.
that's a good topic. It's a very good topic. Okay, well, hang around if you want to learn a little bit more about what do you do when you get a listing and it's moving very quickly. And Giselle, thank you for allowing people to listen in on our conversation then.
Yes, thank you. So, I'll recap where this listing came from. So this is one of my investor clients. I found them on off-market deal. They're rehabbing the property right now. I thought it would take a long time, but it's moving at a speed of like train. So, because I want to list, I think, before we get to winter time. And so I've never done a listing presentation. Although they are my buyers, right? But I still want to I told them I want to sit down with you both to have a listing presentation so that I can
You said
formally.
they are your buyers? You sold them the lot or the property?
I mean, like, I also have a buyer agreement set up with them where
Okay,
we were making offers on market. None of them panned out, so we ended up going off,
okay,
right?
okay,
But I've never, so they have a representation for a buyer agency
okay.
representation. We have one signed. So my number one question would be, do I need a form for that for the listing side too, for representation?
Yes, and
Yeah.
it would be the Form 41. Yeah, no, wait, I'm sorry, that's the buyer. I'm sorry. For the listing agreement, it's the 1A.
The 1A, okay.
Yeah,
And that's the agency, right? Same.
yes,
Okay, so
yes, it's a listing agreement. That listing agreement form is simply for them to hire you. And you're going to discuss your compensation for them to hire you. You're also going to discuss how much they may want to incentivize a buyer broker who's bringing the broker, if it's not you.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's an interesting discussion under NAR.
Mhm.
We can go further into that. I usually, well, you heard me because you were there with Cecilia, and she really struggled with how much should I offer the buyer.
Yes.
So what I typically do is I'm going to bring comps to the listing presentation. I'm going to bring comps and we're going to go through it. We're going to compare, of course, if it's new construction or it's remodeled construction. I'm going to look for as many comps as possible in the area that have been sold as recently as possible
Mhm.
and have similar features in terms of size, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, parking, etc. And I'm going to look at, well, what did your competition offer buyer brokers? So you might see 2.5%, 3%, 2%, 2.5%, 2.75, 3%. I just share that. Say, well, look, this is what your competition is offering.
Mm.
Now, keep in mind that the average agent only sells 4 houses a year. So if you're only selling 4 houses a year, can you see how this compensation might steer an agent either to or away from your listing?
Yes.
So how much do you want to incentivize them? Right.
Mhm.
And then just let that be their decision. And
Right.
it will be negotiated at closing if it's not generous.
Wendy, the compensation for me as the agent, right? Like I know, and again, I've never done a listing. I've heard what it was before this whole NAR thing happened. Like people are always, oh, 5 to 6%. And then part of that is to incentivize the buyer broker. Now, I haven't discussed my compensation at all with them. Like because and that's my question, because these are my investor buyers. We just I'm gonna be doing multiple listings with them, like probably one every other month. Oh, as they start building up their thing, as I find them the houses. So I feel like, okay, my back of my mind, I'm like, I want to charge full on percentage, full on commission. And then I'm like, oh, should I not charge that much? Like we haven't talked about
For
that.
the first one. And then if you might want to say, I reward loyalty. If you do a second one and a third one and a fourth one, each time I'm going to do this. But on the first one, no, just because they're promising you multiple, the first one, let's get that under our belt, make sure it goes smoothly, then I give discounts, right? Just lessons learned, Now, when you say this is an off-market deal, do they want to sell off-market?
No,
Okay.
we want to put it on.
Okay, all right, so it's a full on-market deal when they sell. And for a lot of investors, they will list with the agent that brought them the deal
Mhm.
to buy. So on the buy side, and I know you're working that too. If I can bring you something on the buy side, then you will agree to list it with me on the sell side. And a lot of investors will say, I'll list with you, but it's at 1.5%.
Mhm.
That I hear that from a lot of agents, investors. Now, that may or may not work for you. And have these guys done deals before, or are they kind of new in investing?
We've done deals before. And they have, they give the listings to the other people. So this is the first one where I got the list back, right? Even though I think I worked with one other off-market deal, but I didn't get the list back for that one. I think they had one already. And so
Okay.
this is my first list back, but they are working on another one that I brought them. So we already have the second potential listing already lined up after this one. So,
Okay, all right.
so, yeah,
Did
so
you, on your list back, did it specify what your,
it was all word, like kind of with words, Wendy. We didn't write down anything. Yeah.
and you didn't agree on a percentage or a dollar amount or anything?
We haven't discussed
Okay.
the money yet.
Okay,
So that's
All
kind
right.
of what I want to ask you, Wendy, because I don't want to like also turn them off, but I also
Yeah.
want fair to everyone. Like I want it to be
Right.
win for everybody, you know?
So Giselle, what do you usually pay your listing agents to list your investment deals for you?
Ah, so ask them, huh? Yeah. Ask them the question. Yeah.
And then if it's really low, just go, you're kidding. Just be prepared for how you're going to respond. If it's super low, you don't have to say yes. You could go, you're kidding. Well, I don't think I could do it for that. Is that the best you can do?
Right. Okay.
Just, ask when in doubt, ask questions.
Yes. You're right, because I haven't asked that because I didn't want to, I was like, I need to talk to Wendy first. Okay.
Yeah. What
So
do
the,
they usually pay?
what
And
do
you
you-
say, look, I want to be fair, but if it's really low, I want to be fair, but the minimum that I charge is.
yeah.
However, you do have the option of how you want to incentivize the buyer broker. So let's take a look at that. Maybe you could save some money there. I mean, I hate to say that, buyer brokers, but that is a conversation that sellers will be hearing a lot
Mm,
because the listing agent doesn't want to cut their commission.
right.
So they
Yeah.
may say, how much do you want to incentivize the buyer's agency? I mean, you could save money there, but let's look at what your competition is offering before we decide on that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, you don't have to offer anything. You could let them negotiate. You could do whatever you want, but if you don't offer anything, it's possible that agents will be reluctant to bring buyers to your listing, right?
Yeah.
Just let them decide.
Yeah. Yeah. Just put it there. Okay. So what, okay, and from your experience, Wendy, because you have worked with investors as well, what do you personally for yourself take it as fair, not fair on the listing side?
I have not done a list back. And if I had, if I had brought them the deal and they said, we list back, but we list at 1.5%. I mean, depending on how much I got, from the deal and how big it was, I might be perfectly fine with that. So I haven't done a list back. If I was just being interviewed among a number of other agents, I would probably go for my full commission. I've got 20 years experience. I get homes sold. I have some statistics, right? And so I may say, this is what I charge. And then they say, oh gosh, Wendy, we really love you, but you're the best. You're a top choice. But Giselle said she would do it for 0.5% more or less.
Mhm.
Okay. Really? Well, Lynette, is that the only thing keeping you from hiring me? And Lynette says yes. I say, all right, I will do it for that as long as we sign the agreement today. Sign right here.
Hmm.
Or whatever it is I'm asking them to do. I will do that as long as we agree to list the price at. That's usually the issue. If I'm taking a discount on my commission, I want a price that I know it's going to sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that might be your negotiating if you have to make some concessions
Right.
on your commission.
Yeah.
I'll do it, but I'll do it if we can list at this price.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
then you're quiet and you just wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they do want to sell it fast. They don't want to hold on to it. So the pricing will need to be
Aggressive.
aggressive. Yeah.
Mhm. So
Okay.
keep reminding them of how quickly they want to sell and when you're having that pricing discussion
Mm-hmm.
and look at the days on market for your comps.
Okay,
How do we need to price it in order to have it sell quickly? Because time is money. They're probably using hard money.
Yeah.
They need to get out of it quickly.
and then like for a regular listing, what's a regular commission, Wendy? Like when you say,
Well, see, that's, I can't tell you that. That's because, National Association of Realtors, that is a real no.
Okay.
There's no such thing as regular or typical anymore. We can't do that.
Okay.
I can tell you that for me, I do have some, and I would highly recommend that everybody establish some business minimums. What are your standards? So, for example, here are a few of my standards, mine. I will not take a listing if it's more than 5% overpriced.
Okay.
It won't sell. Now, I could be surprised, but often I just won't take a listing if it's more than 5% overpriced. I'll say, I'm sorry, I don't think I can help you. End of discussion. I used to do a lot of land listings, and typically on land, although it varies depending on the price point for land, but if it's not a very expensive piece of land, it's not unusual. It wasn't unusual to have 10% commission, 5% for the listing agent, 5% for the broker's agent. Now, and land is, like I mentioned, it's complicated, it takes longer to sell. So I have a minimum. I won't do it for less than $5,000. $5,000, it doesn't make sense for me. It's too much time for too little money. But you guys might, depending on what's the minimum you need to be able to make some profit, and compensate you for the extra length of time that it might sell, and it might not sell. So you may have some upfront costs. Those need to be covered. So if I am going into, this is me personally, if I'm going into a listing presentation, especially if it's somebody I don't know, and I've been competitive enough to be selected as one of the agencies, if not one of the agents, if not the agent they're interviewing, I'm going to ask for a 3% commission. I don't ask for anything extra. Some agents do. They'll ask for transaction fees or whatever. If it's friends and family, I used to do just a 0.5% off. Now I just say, I'll give you a 10% discount. That means it's a 2.7% commission.
Okay.
And you know what? 10% sounds like a lot to them, and it is. You're taking a 10% cut in your usual pay. I mean, just think about it. What do the stores do for you? So for me, that's a reasonable friends and family discount. Maybe that's a reasonable discount for the second, third, fourth transactions that you do for a repeat client. You give them the friends and family discount.
Yeah.
And then I'll negotiate if it's like Lynette says, Wendy, Giselle said she'd do it for 2.5%. Will you do it for 2.5%? Is that the only thing keeping you from signing that agreement with me? Because I'm not going to say yes if there's other objections. I'm going to wait. And Lynette says, yeah, that's the only thing. Well, great. I'll tell you what, for you, Lynette, I will do it for 2.5%. If you agree to list at this price, which I believe is a 30-day price. And that's what you want, right? You need to sell this quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
So is that quick 30-day sell, right? That would be considered quickly, Wendy.
Here's another thing on a 30-day price. Appraisers give you a 30-day price. That's how appraisals work. It's a 30-day price. It's only good for 30 days. And I know that because my partner was an appraiser for like 17 years, residential and commercial. So what an appraiser gives you is a 30-day price. And it has to appraise, right? Your property has to appraise, otherwise you're creating problems for the buyer. So we don't want to price it too high.
Yeah. Wow, so the pricing is important. Yeah, 30-day price. Yeah, which is
and for you, Giselle, there's all kinds of great YouTube videos on listing presentations that are excellent. And go listen to a few of them. I don't know if you have a script. Do you have a script?
No.
I like the Mike Ferry script, but there's lots of different scripts out there.
Mhm.
The Mike Ferry script you can get for free. As you know, just go to mikeferry.com. That's my script. That's what I use. There are parts of it that will feel funny to you because you haven't practiced it. And so you might want to find a script that you feel comfortable with. Bring it with you. Read it.
Yeah.
No, there's no shame or you don't get demerits for reading it. In fact, you might tell them, hey, do you mind if I read this? I want to make sure I'm not leaving anything out. And I'd be very surprised if somebody says, no, you can't read it.
And a listing presentation probably takes about an hour, Wendy, or so.
If I can get mine down to half an hour, it's even better. But that depends on you having provided the materials in advance and then calling them
Yeah.
to say, did you receive it? Did you review it? Do you have any questions that I should be prepared for when I arrive?
Okay.
And then you know what the objections are when you get there. You don't have to answer the questions when you call them back. You can say, let's discuss. That'll be the first thing we discuss when
And
we get together.
when you send the materials, what are the materials?
Well, just like I showed you the buyers
Okay.
agreement, the buyer's materials, you'll have some of the materials the same. You'll have a paperwork section. You'll have that pamphlet and you'll have the Form 1A.
Mhm.
And you might include the seller disclosures because that you can't fill it out for them. They have to fill it out. And it's probably going to take them a while to fill it out.
Okay.
You're going to have information on you, even though they know you. You're going to have information on you and your company. And then you're going to, of course, you're going to have comps.
Mm-hmm.
And you might have a net sheet if you ask them, how much do you owe on the property?
Okay. Okay. So I have to find out, right? I can add some of that.
That's one of the there's pre-qualification questions that you should be asking them. Every single question. Again, Mike Ferry has a pre-qualification script you can download for free from mikeferry.com.
Okay.
And good to ask all those questions in advance so you're not blindsided when you get there.
Yeah. Okay. So a pre-call before the appointment. And then do you, as a listing agent, do you have expenses yourself as a listing agent that come out of pocket?
Yes,
Yeah.
sadly. This is tough for new agents. One, you're putting a lockbox on the door.
Mhm.
There are pros and cons of having a lockbox on the door. I think you all remember when my $2.4 million listing got broken into and the lockbox stolen
Mhm.
and the burglary of her property. So you won't have that situation. So they probably will want a lockbox.
Mhm.
They will probably expect you to have a sign installed.
Mhm. Yeah.
They let's see what other out-of-pocket expenses. Oh, you're gonna probably be the one paying for professional photography.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
try to get my sellers to pay for their own staging.
Okay.
And you all, because you're brand new, should try really hard to get the sellers to pay for staging.
Is that more expensive than photos, Wendy?
It can be, depending on the size of the home.
Okay.
Yeah. And depending on what kind of staging they want.
Mhm.
They should be responsible for house cleaning the house beforehand. They should be responsible for any needed repairs. They should be responsible for any landscaping. But as you know, EXP has a partnership. Well, these are investors, so they should be able to take care of it.
Yeah.
But we
Okay.
have a partnership with Curbio for those homeowners who have no money to do the fix up, but you know they're going to get a lot more if they can fix a few things.
Mhm. And so and I know you've had guests on our calls, right? you have recommendations for photographers and stagers?
Yes, yes.
Would you recommend me
Yep.
interviewing a few of them, since I've never talked to anybody? I've never talked to photographers or stagers before.
Yeah, you can just probably tell them that you're a colleague of mine at EXP and I referred you.
Yeah.
And they may not remember who listened to them when they came. Anyway, but yes. And then, of course, EXP has preferred vendors. Have you seen the preferred vendors list at
No.
EXP?
Okay.
It's probably on expenterprise.com. I think that's right if anybody else knows differently. But there is a preferred vendors list and they do have photography. They have a lot of different things. I've over 20 years in different places. I've
For
kind of
photos,
created my own.
the whole thing
Yep.
with the aerial photos, the whole thing I've seen, like video, 3D.
What kind of property is this?
It's a single
they-
family, a 3-bedroom, single family residence with like 3 acres in Issaquah.
Oh, 3 acres.
Mhm.
Okay. It might be good to do aerial photography because there's forest or there's a meadow or there's, yeah, it's their neighbors are far away. Maybe you've got foothills in the background or yes, it's more expensive if you know, the full photo package will cost you some money there. But I do recommend professional photography versus taking your own photos.
Yeah.
If it depends. If you were doing a mobile home, I'd probably say just use your iPhone, right?
Right.
Just go through, take
Yeah.
the pictures yourself. And you know, you don't need to do all out. But these are investors. It should look really nice
Yeah.
when they're done. So you want the staging, the cleaning, the photos to look good.
Yes. And then like do you do the 3D photos, stuff like that?
I don't even know what 3D photos are, but it's high definition photos, yes. And people seem to like Matterport. Not
Yes.
me. I'm super old school, but the young people like it.
Yeah.
So-
That's a
and
3D
so
photo.
actually the agents like the blueprints, the floor plans. They like looking at those.
Yes.
So it's extra. I mean, a Zillow video is less expensive. You definitely do not want to get into higher end videos at the price point you're likely in
Right.
right now.
Right. Okay. And so for you personally, Wendy, you're paying for the photos and then you're kind of like reimbursing yourself when you get your commission, right? That's kind of how it's like a business expense for you.
I mean, you can negotiate this. You can say, look, I'm a new agent. Do they know you're a new agent?
Yeah.
Okay. If you guys would front the money for this and get what, you know, the people you want, I will reimburse you out of closing.
Hmm.
And I'm just throwing that out there because as new agents, I know, you know, you get nickel and dime to death. And unless you have money,
Mhm.
you know, from your spouse or other sources, it can be hard to come up with that amount of money. You may also be able to negotiate with vendors.
Yeah.
Like, I know my stager will say, I don't need to be paid until closing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
my stager will. Yeah. Photographer, he usually wants to be paid right away.
Yeah.
The sign company will want prepayment, but they prepayment on the install. And then they charge you when you
When you say the sign
uninstall.
company, you mean the thing that hangs the little.
Oh, yes, shoot, you probably don't have a personalized panel.
No.
You might ask them if they have a generic EXP panel that they could put up. And
Okay.
then you can order a sign writer that has just your name and phone number on it.
Mhm.
that can hang from that panel. That'll be a lot less expensive. You can
Yeah.
order that through a sign company that's on the preferred vendor list for EXP. Yeah, you guys don't have signboards. When you do open houses, I gave Michael Taylor a bunch of my old open house signs, but you can borrow signboards from me and put your own posters handwritten or use my signboards. I might be able to help you with the open house that way.
Okay, for the open house. And and that's another question, for example, what do you offer to do open houses every weekend for your sellers?
No, I mean, you can if you're looking for more buyers and sellers. And if you're going to supplement that by either calling around the neighborhood or knocking on doors, inviting people to drum up the crowd. It's good to have a sign-in list, and you can say, my seller wants to know who's here. You need to sign in, please, put your name, and your sign-in list can have name and phone number, or phone number, email, and whatever they put in or don't put in. I'll just say, if it's a sketchy neighborhood, you might even ask for a driver's license.
Okay, well,
You
it's
know,
a,
my
it's a
My
nice,
sellers want to know who's here. Do you mind signing in? And we'll have to look at a driver's license. Do you have a driver's license?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm sorry, I can't let you in. If it's a sketchy neighborhood or you're uncomfortable, or, I mean, there's a whole safety thing about a woman alone in an empty house. So
right,
we could talk about that.
right, okay, maybe I could do it with the lender, the open house,
You
right?
could do it with the lender, you could do it with another mentee.
Yeah,
Yep, I usually do a broker's open, so find out when the open houses are scheduled in that area with brokers. MLS has those hours on something called a caravan, so you can look that up, call the MLS and say, I'm in this area. When are the brokers opens usually held? Hold it at the same time. You should be there, meet all those agents, try to recruit them to EXP. And then, maybe that first weekend, maybe the first couple weekends. But honestly, if you don't have an offer within the first couple weeks, we need to reevaluate the
Mhm.
price,
Okay,
because that's most likely the issue.
yeah,
Maybe
okay,
we haven't nailed the price.
got it, okay, so. And the price will be based on the comps, right? Like basically the comps. And then they have to decide the price, right? I can't tell them the price.
Well, they'll tell you they think you should list it at whatever, and you can say, well, as a professional looking at what the market is telling us, it's not what you're saying, Giselle. What's the market telling us? It looks like the price should be this.
Yeah,
Now, and then you do want to sell in 30 days. Ask a question. You
right.
do want to sell in 30 days, right? Well, Zillow, Redfin, CoreLogic are all saying the price should be this.
Mm-hmm.
Your price is higher than that. Can you afford to have it on the market for 2 months, 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
No, you want to sell in 30 days? Well, then I would recommend this price. It looks like the market is telling us this is the right price. No,
Yeah.
no, I really want this price.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if let's say it's within your parameters, it's less than 5% over what you might recommend,
Mm-hmm.
or 10%, whatever yours is. I'm willing to do it for that for the first 2 weeks. But if we don't have an acceptable offer, not just showings, an acceptable offer in 2 weeks, are you willing to list at the price I'm recommending?
Mm-hmm.
Bring the Form 19, which makes that automatic. On this date, we're going to change the price, and see if they'll sign it. Because they might not sign it, even though you had a verbal discussion about it now. 2 weeks from now, no, we want to give it another week.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sign it here. That way we'll just automatically take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
don't want to be sitting on the market, right? You want to be sold in 30 days. Okay, let's take care of the paperwork now. So we're ready. If we need it, I hope we don't. I want to
Yeah.
get you that 10% more than I think it's worth.
Yeah. True. Okay, so you'll do it right, but with with the paperwork in place. Yeah, so basically rule of thumb is if we don't have an acceptable offer within the first 2 weeks of being live, there's something iffy with the price probably.
Well, they want to be sold in a month.
I think so. Oh yeah. Most likely.
I mean, honestly, the most activity, and you can ask them, I mean, you guys are savvy investors. When do you think we have the most interest and activity on your listing? Because I'm going to hit it hard with the marketing. I'm going to be calling your neighbors. I'm going to be calling agents. I'm going to be promoting it to my group at EXP.
Yeah.
And then they'll give you an answer and you can say, well, actually it's within the first 3 weeks. But you guys do want to be sold within 30 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we see what happens the first 2 weeks? We're going to hit it hard. We don't want you to be chasing the market down.
Mhm.
If after 2 weeks, are you willing to adjust the prices we need to?
Mm-hmm.
And if they say, yeah, that we think so, great. Well, I have this form here because we don't want to waste any time. We do not want to be chasing the market down in the winter. So
Yeah.
why don't we go ahead and sign this form now?
Mm-hmm.
And then we can go ahead and immediately make that change if we need to, and only if we need to.
Right. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna probably watch videos, Wendy.
Yes.
It's a lot of information. Um, and then, yeah, I will let them know that I'll set up an appointment maybe for, I think like maybe for a week out and then do all my homework. I'll ask you questions. If you could send the referral for your photographer and stager. You may
Yeah,
have sent it already, but
Yeah, and you won't need that till you get a signed listing agreement.
I don't need to worry about that right now.
Nope, you got enough on your plate.
Okay, so the priorities then is making sure I understand the flow of the presentation, right?
Having a presentation, having a script.
Having a script, practice a script, set the appointment. I'll probably set the appointment first and then and send over the paperwork to them ahead of time, right? So send,
And
let me see what you said. Hold on, you said to send them the listing agreement form, the buyer agency agreement.
No, not the buyer agency agreement. They're not buying.
Right,
It's
right.
just the
The
listing
pamphlet,
agreement,
right?
the pamphlet.
Yes. And then the anything about me, a little blurb.
Anything about you, EXP,
Yeah,
information about you and your company,
yes. Okay,
and your comps. Of course, your comps.
yes. Yeah.
And yeah, a net sheet would be nice if
Okay,
you have an easy way to produce a net sheet. And if you don't, ask your lender or your title escrow people if they can help you.
the title people gave me an app that I can do that. So yes, I'm good with that.
Excellent.
Yes, so basically, and then, so what I'll do, I'll give them a quick call too and find out, what because they do this a lot, right? So I'm gonna ask, what do you usually pay your listing agent, right?
Yeah.
Get that
Mhm.
information, and then be like, oh, wow, or maybe they pay well, right? So like, depending where they're at, I can negotiate with them or have a conversation before the formal meeting. And then, ask them for a net sheet, I need to know how much they own the property, correct?
Yes. You might, there's a lot of people when you say, how much do you owe on the property? They're like, I'm private. I'm not going to tell you. And I'm saying, and then I'll say, oh, look, the only reason I need that is for your benefit to show you how much money you're going to have in your pocket. I can either do that now or I can do it when you get an offer. What
Yeah,
would you like?
Yeah.
What would you like me to do?
okay, okay.
And they may just say, hey, that's okay. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
But usually people were like, oh, yeah, that would be great. I'd like to know how much will I have
Mhm.
when I get an offer at this price.
Right. And for that net sheet, Wendy, I would need to know how much I'm charging for a commission though, right?
Yes.
'Cause that is,
And you'd have to know how much you expect it will sell for.
okay.
Let's
So how
say list price. So you're kind of on the net sheet, you're telling them what you think it should sell for.
Right,
You're telling them what your commission is,
yeah,
and you're showing them how much money they'll have in their pocket.
yeah, before we meet, right, and that's great, because then if they have any questions, like, great.
And I would say if anything has to go, if you're feeling uncomfortable about any of that, that would probably be the piece that you could save for later. And of course, I'm happy to look over whatever you've put together before you meet, if you have time. If they want to meet with you sooner, then, use me. We'll try to get things together for you quickly.
Yes, and last question, Wendy, do you ever negotiate for sellers to pay for half the photos and half the staging? Have you ever done that?
I haven't, but you could ask them again if, do they typically, you might say, do you typically pay for your own photos?
Hmm, okay.
I
So
mean,
they-
just phrase it in a way. Do you typically pay for your own staging? Do you typically pay for your own, what was the other thing? Photos and staging?
Mhm,
And they may say, no, the agent always pays for that.
mhm,
Well, as you know, I'm a new agent
mhm,
and I'd be very happy to pay for that. Would you be willing to front the money
mhm.
so I can reimburse you? Now, with the stager, you won't need to do that if you're using my stager.
Right.
It depends on how far north it is because she lives in Buckley, so she won't go.
Oh, yeah, it's an Issaquah.
She might not do that, but
Mhm, okay.
so you might say if I need, if my vendors need to be paid right away, would you mind paying that up front? And I'll reimburse you for my proceeds.
Okay. So yeah, so there's a lot of questions I have to do. Yeah, I'll
Well,
have that.
that's only because you're new, and you can say, hey, because I'm new,
Mhm,
happy to pay for these things.
Yeah.
But would you guys be willing to work with me?
Yeah. Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing. I think Lisa and Diego and Lynette, they were on listening for a while, so that's great. All right. Well, good luck and keep me posted. Let me know how it goes.
I will, definitely will. Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.